Topps trading cards. And when I was a child, you could go into your local corner store and you could buy a pack of baseball cards or hockey cards or other cards for a nickel or a dime a pack. And you'd open up this thing, and inside would be 5 or 6 cards of athletes, including a stick of bazooka gum. So for a nickel, you'd get a stick of gum, which you'd start chewing on right away. And depending on how old the package was, the gum was either soft or brittle, because the older the package, the drier the gum got. It was a pink stick of gum, sort of the size of a Band-Aid, maybe a little thicker, a little wider than a Band-Aid. And if you had a good buddy, if you had your best friend with you, your best friend would buy a pack of gum, buy a pack of cards, open up the pack and split the gum in half and give you half, and you'd have half, and then you'd be looking at the cards together. And your buddy, if your buddy was a real buddy, would say, "Oh, I got him. I got 2 of these guys. Here, you can have these guys. I already have these 2 cards. So you can have them. Here's a Mickey Mantle card, and here's a Whitey Ford." No, he would never hand you the Mickey Mantle card. Even if he had 10, he had 20 now. But you would get a couple of cards from him that he didn't need. I had some friends of mine when I was about 9 years old, 8 years old, 7 years old. They were getting allowances of 25 cents a week. These kids were rich. They were getting 25 cents a week. I was getting like a dime. And I couldn't spend my money. I had to save it. Anyway, these kids were getting 25 cents. Some were getting 50 cents a week in allowance. And they would go into the corner store, and it was like the money would be handed to them on like a Saturday morning would be their allowance. So Saturday afternoon or Sunday, I'd be with my buddy going to the corner store, and I would just be along just to hang out with the guy. And the guy would buy 2 packs of trading cards, a bottle of pop, and like a chocolate bar. I mean, luxuries, absolute luxuries. And the kid knew that every week he would get another 25 or 50 cents. He also knew that Sunday afternoon, Grandma and Grandpa were coming over, and he knew that one of them would slip him 50 cents more. So the kid was rolling in cash, and he was a spender. He wasn't a saver. He was a spender. So we'd go into the store, and this would be, year after year of this stuff. So this kid would be spoiled rotten, always knowing he'd have money, always knowing he could buy whatever he wanted. And I'm like looking at this going, this is like the 3rd time I've ever been into this place. Look at all the stuff you can buy that is perfect for kids. And so he would buy a bunch of 3 or 4 packs of cards, and we would be outside and sitting on the parking curb or whatever, and he'd be opening them up, and he'd go, "Oh, I got these here. You can have these," and he'd hand them to me, and we'd leave together, and I'd leave with 10 trading cards that cost me nothing. I'm just hanging out with this guy, and I'd have all these. These were hockey cards because we're in Canada, of course. So I would be collecting all of these hockey cards, week after week, month after month. And it got to the point that eventually I had like 500 hockey cards, because I would also trade for them as well. And never having bought a pack of cards. I never purchased a pack of cards ever. And the kid would get 3 packs. He'd have 3 of these sticks of gum. So the first pack he'd open up and he'd put the gum in his mouth. The second pack he'd open up, he'd just give me the gum. And I have a wad of this stuff. Then he'd open up the 3rd pack and he'd break it in half. He'd give me half and he'd have half. So we'd have 1.5 wads of bazooka gum in our mouths, which is a bubble gum. You can blow bubbles on it. And it tasted really good for about the first 5 minutes, and then it lost all of its flavor. And then he'd have like 20 cards or whatever it was, and he'd be going through them. I'd get half of them. He'd keep half of them. And then off we'd go on our bikes, and we continue on our journey. Oh, my God. Those are the days. Well, Topps is going public. Topps is going public because they used to produce cards for baseball and hockey and football and basketball over the years, the decades. They were a candy company with bazooka gum and other candies, and they've evolved over the decades. And anyway, they're going public. That's the story about Topps.